Today's video is sponsored by Topaz May. Thank you for being a member of this channel. Welcome back to another video today, guys. We just freshly cleaned out the shop, moved all these boats out, swept everything, wiped the floors up. So it's nice and clean in our working area over here. And we're gonna get jumping right back into the boat. So what I'm gonna get started with today is I'm gonna start mapping out exactly where I want these fasteners to go. I might make a slight adjustment to this top board before I proceed with that though. And the reason is you notice there's quite a bit of a gap here, but not so much a gap on the ends. So if I just plane this down very slightly, I should be able to get this to move down enough to close that gap up. But these two I'm pretty happy with. So once I get that done, then I can begin mapping it out. Now I've taken a little bit off of both ends and kind of moved it into a little bit of a better position. So it's a little bit tighter in some spots. It's still not perfect, but it's a lot closer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to mark out exactly where all the fasteners are gonna go, and then I'm gonna start assembling the wood on here with the epoxy. Now every boat's gonna be a little bit different, but the reason I'm doing it that way is because the wood on this boat has a bit of a bow in it right in the middle. So you can imagine if I push in on the middle of this wood, it's gonna stretch out just a little bit. So I don't wanna do like a perfect final fitment quite yet. But I do want to start assembling at least the bottom because I'm happy with the fitment here. Once I get this on and flat, and I get this one and flat, then I can begin to look at this one a little bit closer. You don't really do it all at once. You can kind of take your time with it and do little sections of it if you'd like. That's the way that I'm going to get it done. So let's now start plotting out exactly where all of these little fasteners are going to go onto the back of this transom. So Artem is just going to quickly show me how this tool works that he's using to lay out the holes onto the hull sides on this gravette here.
Okay, we just install this, measure this and this. This is an end for the plank. We put on the end the plank and put the pencil and just...
So yeah, we're going to grab that tool. We're going to grab some of the drills that they're using on the hull sides, and we're going to bring on over to RatSync and we're going to start mapping it all out. Now you can use it for the top edge along here, but you can also use it for finding the frame along this edge here. So I have 2.5 inches from this side to this side before that frame ends. So I have it marked on my ruler, and I can just get a very kind of rough idea of where the frame actually lives. Now keep in mind the edges aren't perfect, neither is this line, but it gives me an idea of how far I can put these fasteners away from each other and not come too close to the edge of this. I want to maintain at least, like a 1/4 inch, 3/8 away from the edge of this so that I'm not blowing through the back of it. So using that little tool, I was able to measure the frames, and I have X-ray vision now. I can see exactly where the frames are laying, going along here, going along the top of the boat, which, there. Now it's going along the top of the boat. But that enables me to see where we put our fasteners. Now, as for patterns, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a zigzag across the bottom. This is the most important part. You want this to be really solid and secure. And then down here, we're gonna have a zigzag. Here we'll have a zigzag. The top, we'll probably just do a row, and then we'll have a row going this way, this way, this way, and then of course, we'll have a double row going across like that. And that will be how we fasten this onto the back. So Artem's gonna establish how many fasteners we're gonna put onto the back of this, and while he's doing that, I'm gonna go get some paint, and we're gonna paint the inside of the areas here, get this all sealed up. And by the time we're done that, hopefully we're ready to start throwing these on. We're gonna take a look in our inventory here for our shop. We got the Century Mahogany Bilge Paint by Sandusky, and they make paint and stains that match essentially perfectly to the original paint and stain on your boat. This can has definitely seen better days. I don't know if somebody dropped it at one point in its life, but I'm pretty sure the paint in here is still good. Let's just take a look. Yeah, still liquidy. So I just have to mix all this up and make sure everything is blended inside of here, and we can go put it on the boat. Now, if you don't have one of these mixers, I highly recommend you get yourself one of them. It makes your life so much easier rather than standing there stirring it with a stir stick for who knows how long, 10, 20 minutes, I don't know. I don't know how long you stir these with. Now I'm going to put a little bit of paint thinner or lacquer thinner in here as well and mix that up with our paint. Might as well clean out this little bucket too while I have a chance. Probably a little bit excessive. There we go, just a little bit of thinner in there. Now as Artem continues on here with getting this all plotted out, I'm going to sneak up inside of the boat here and try to paint some of this. I might be able to get most of it from the top, but I am going to have to get in there. It's not very convenient. I don't know if I've ever showed you guys this before. The gap to get in here is pretty small, and you can't really get in this way. So you have to climb in from the front, go over top of it, go under. A little bit of a maze, but we'll get in there. We'll get it painted. Okay, this is how I've been getting into the boat. So you go under here, and then you have to crawl through this little entranceway here. And then you're inside of this little enclosed area. Hello, Artem. Now, I won't lie to you guys, this is actually pretty cozy. I can rest my arm up here, kind of work on the back spot like this. Actually, right now, what Artem is marking out is that's going to be the top of the boat once this is flipped over. It'll have the zigzag in it. It's a pretty solid frame. These are the battens. They'll have the intersection of the planks right here with one row on the top, one row on the bottom. And then of course you'll have a row of fasteners going down this way as well. And then that's the curved section that I marked out previously. Now if you think I'm painting this pretty sloppily, you gotta realize Chris Craft back in the day, what they would do is they would put a hose in the transom of the boat, they'd run it forward, and it would literally just be a tube with a bunch of holes poked in it. And they would pump paint and pressurized air into it, and it would spin around and flick around in there, and that's how they would go with the inside of the bilge areas. Just absolutely spraying paint everywhere. It's kind of like that Mr. Bean episode where he puts the explosive in the paint jar and the can explodes and paints the whole room. That's kind of how Chris Craft used to paint their boats back in the day. So I'm not, trying to make this like the most perfect thing ever. I'm just throwing some paint onto the back of it. It may seem rather pointless painting an area that no one is going to look at, but the point is that it actually seals the wood as well. If you do want your boat to be show quality, you have to paint everything the way that it was painted, and that includes brush strokes actually in some cases. That doesn't matter in this situation, just throwing paint on to seal it, but I don't think that looks absolutely terrible. Looks like Artem's setting up a little table up here. He's blocking me in the boat. But as we continue on, as I get this boat flipped over, even if I go up to the top there, I might have a couple little spots I'm just gonna touch up really quick, but we're gonna jump on over to see what Artem's been doing and catch up with what the next steps are there. Just have to sneak my way through this little jungle. I absolutely love the dash. The color in this thing doesn't really show up on the camera. It's more of like a darker green, but anyways, I gotta get out of here. I'm getting claustrophobic. So here Artem has all the holes marked out, and so what we're gonna do next, you can see all of them laid out here, is I'm gonna take off the planks, we're gonna get the epoxy mixed up, and we're going to actually install the planks under the back of the boat. One more really quick little trick I want to show you guys. When you're taking the fasteners out, and it's only ever been fastened in the middle, in the end there's a lot of pressure here, just take a clamp. It doesn't have to be tight, it can be, just kind of on there, and then you can begin to take out the fasteners a little bit at a time. And you'll see that the clamp, I stuck my hand in the wet paint. I should have thought of that. The clamp is going to hold back a lot of that pressure, and then you can relieve it and you're not going to have any problems. If you just undo this fastener, that is going to tear this piece of wood to shreds. So Artem set out all the little tools we're going to need here to get this onto the wood. Of course, we have our hardener and our resin. We're using a slow hardener so that we have some working time with it. It's not going to set right away. We want about a 12-hour cure time. That way we have enough time today to get the wood fastened on. If we use the fast hardener, it could theoretically start to set within an hour or two. So you want to make sure you're using the slow one. We have some stain that we're going to use to stain up the epoxy. And then of course we have our microfibers that we're going to put in with the epoxy to make it a little bit more rigid. And then of course we have the trowel. We used this a couple of videos ago to put the ply on with the 5200. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to get this all mixed up. Artem's going to mix up some of this right now. We're going to start with plank number 1. So we're gonna get this on here, put on like a sticker, fasten it down, and we'll start threading that piece of wood onto the other piece of wood. So Artem here has this setup that will put a little bit of a chamfer. It'll set the proper depth, and it also just puts a little bit of a starting hole into the material that's receiving the fastener. So we're gonna start off, like I said before, working our way up to the middle and then out so that this piece of wood goes on flat and we can squish it kind of up this way. So just like the gravette, one guy drills, one guy fastens, probably switch out every now and then. And we're gonna start applying this piece of wood onto the back and then working our way up to the next plank and the next one. Let's get it done. So for the thickness of the frame fasteners, we're using a number 8 screw, which is about this thick. And then for the batten fasteners that run along the intersection between the two planks, we're actually using a number 6. So you can see it's a little bit of a smaller screw. And the point of that is that when we put a lot of pressure on here, like Artem was saying, it doesn't blow the batten apart. It just kind of puts the wood pieces together, holds it in place, and it doesn't cause too much pressure. So yeah, we're just gonna do a smaller size across these rows here, but the rest of them are essentially getting the number 8. And we're also using a different length. So for the frames, we're using this longer, and then for the battens, we're using this shorter one. And it's just due to the fact of how much material we have. You can see on the frames that fits quite nice. And then for the battens, they're a lot thinner than this, so you don't want to blow through the other side of them. So now that we have all of them put in place, Artem's going to go around manually checking them all, the torque with a screwdriver. It's important that you do that to make sure that you didn't miss any, and also as you're fastening it, some of them may lose torque. Just like tuning a violin. If you tune a violin and you only tune the top string and you work your way down, it'll be completely out of tune by the time you get to the bottom. You have to do it evenly and go back and forth. And it's the same with this. We want to make sure all of these screws are in tune. And if you look on the side here where this plank was originally really curved, you can see how much of it's been taken away by that. So it's sitting down a lot flatter now. In a perfect world, this would be flat, so would this plank, and you would install them and there'd be no gap. But seeing as this boat has apparently been through a rock tumbler or something in its life, we're gonna have to sand and fill just a little bit of this here to make it smooth. But again, this is all getting painted. There'll be a big white stripe all along here, all around the back. So aesthetically, it doesn't matter too much. Structurally, it is very sound, so that's exciting. Now we're ready for the second plank. One thing we're doing this time that we didn't do last time is we're putting epoxy on this edge to make sure it's sealed here. We didn't do it on this part because this deck is getting replaced, but you have to put epoxy in between the pieces of wood. Even if you're doing it the old-fashioned way and not using this, that's how you seal it. So let's get the next one on. Another thing we're doing is Artem put this in place to put some pressure on here before we actually fasten this here. One thing I will mention too, we're putting pressure on it and the hole still lines up because this has been smushed out. So everything's lining up really nice right now. We have lots of really close contact on these planks and they are touching. So that's exactly what we wanted. If you remember the dry fit, they were slightly apart, but this really makes all the difference. So let's take a look at this. Here's the before. Okay, you see that big gap? You can see all the ways down, and that's after. Look at that. A little bit of an illusion here. It's sticking out a little bit farther, but it's right up against the wood. And if we just get a little bit of epoxy in the little side parts here, it's all sealed up. That's all it takes, is just going around, making sure you're starting here in the middle, working your way out, getting these done, and then torquing it down with a screwdriver. And you get the end looking really nice like that. Done. There we go. In one morning, it's 1:00 p.m. right now, we were able to get all this work done, working together as a team. Thank you so much, Artem. He's over there. I don't know if you can hear me. This is awesome. We made a lot of progress today. Not only did we get the transom planks permanently installed, we also got the back of this relatively painted. So next step after this is sanding, filling in any little cracks, and we're actually going to leave them bare like this, go onto the bottom of the boat, and then we'll do all of it at once. But that's essentially it for the transom. We can kind of move on back to the frames. I know you guys love watching me pick at frames for entire videos. He's hiding. I know you guys love watching me do the frames, so that'll be fun, right? I got lots more fun stuff coming up. Like I said, it's all gonna go downhill really quick here in a good way. It's gonna pick up speed and yeah, carry on pretty quickly. But thanks again, Artem. That was awesome, man.
You're welcome.
We did good, eh?
Awesome.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you guys for watching, supporting the channel. If you want to, you can sign up for a membership down below. It starts at $3.99 a month and goes up from there. Lots of extra perks. And hats are almost here. We are gonna put in the order for the hats really shortly, and we may even be going to a boat show next month. So keep your ears open for that. We'll be making some announcements in the future, but thanks again for watching. Have a good one.